Shields up, Iron Breakers. Rurikhan here coming at you with another video. Welcome back to Monster Hunter World, and today I'm going to be bringing you guys a couple of Insect Glaive builds because I've received quite a few requests. Rurikhan, Insect Glaive, do something with the Insect Glaive, and the only build that I've ever done with the Insect Glaive was the Archangel build, and that relied a little bit too much on the Nergigante Glaive. And if you're using a different glaive, then there could be a couple of better options that you could do. Now, the first build that I'm going to be showing you is the Fallen Angel build, because unlike the Archangel build, we're not going to be having wings anymore, so I figured, hey, maybe we could just call it the Fallen Angel. You know, he still jumps up in the air and stuff, still does air glaive if that's something that you want to do, but he can also do a whole bunch of other different things. Now, I'm going to have a specific set of decorations. I mean, some of them are a little bit hard to get, like the Sharp Jewel and one additional attack jewel, but if you don't have those, don't worry too much about it, and I will tell you why, because this set actually supports a wide variety of both glaives as well as decorations. There's a lot of wiggle room here that you can play around with, and a lot of glaives that you can use on this specific set. So, let's get this started. I'm going to have you guys just straight up look at the build from the get-go. You guys can see the skills, and I will tell decorations and why I did the stuff the way I did. So in the weapon itself, you can put pretty much whatever you want, with the exception of Nergigante Glaive or other glaives that have blue sharpness all the way up until the end, because this build has a lot of handicraft on it. Therefore, you know, blades that are already full of sharpness aren't really going to do very well. However, with the amount of handicraft, we got 4 points in handicraft in this particular build. This allows you to get 1 pixel of white sharpness even on the Diablos Glaive or the Teroth, Kolv Teroth version of the Diablos Glaive, which I know that a lot of people like playing with that glaive, so there you go. You can do the Elementalist playstyle, even though I personally choose to do Elemental. So I got the Teroth Glaive Spark. You might have something completely different. It's going to be up to you. Point of the matter is, most likely, if your glaive can reach white sharpness, this set will get it there. Now, the first piece of armor that we have in here is the Basil Helm Beta. That is because I really like to have earplugs when I play with Insect Glaives. I like earplugs in general, but with Insect Glaives, I just like it even more because there's very few things that are more frustrating than getting roared out of the sky when you're setting up for an aerial run on a monster. So we got the Basil Helm Beta for the earplugs, and we're going to socket it with a Tenderizer Jewel and an Attack Jewel 1. That is because we want to get maximum weakness exploit, so that's something that we're going to get out of that. Then we got the Kushala Sista Beta. Now, this is going to provide us with the first 2 points of handicraft. Now, we're going to put a Sharp Jewel in there. Now, if you don't have a Sharp Jewel, then my advice is don't go for a glaive that requires too much to get white sharpness. Because you're still, if your glaive is close to white sharpness, you will still get a comfortable amount of it with this set, and then put a different jewel in here, like maybe a maximum might gem or something like that. And then on the Kaiser Van Braces, we got the Kaiser Van Braces Alpha for weakness exploit, and we're going to put a Bolt Jewel in there because I'm going to be taking advantage of the elemental side of my glaive. If you want to play Elementalist, then you can use an Expert Jewel or another Attack Jewel if you have an Attack Jewel. But Expert Jewels are a lot more common, so if you don't have Attack Jewels, don't tell me, oh, Rurikhan, your jewels are always so impossible. It's like, just put an Expert Jewel in there, you'll be fine. Nergigante Coil Beta giving us 2 more points in attack because we're going to be stacking the attack on the Nergigante Coil with our attack jewels to get as much attack as possible. And on there, we're going to socket a Flight Jewel 2. Now, this is optional. I like to keep my build, how should I put it? I like it to be able to do multiple things, so I like playing both Aerial Glaive and Ground Glaive. I know that a lot of people are like super elitist about this, and they're just like, dude, Ground Glaive all the way. If all you want is Ground Glaive, then put a Maximum Might Jewel in here instead of the Flight Jewel, and then you will have more affinity than I do, and you'll be critting more often. Another option is if you are playing with the Diablos Glaive, then this is the perfect spot to put your Elementalist so that you get as much damage out of that glaive as possible. Then we got the Death Stench Heal Beta. This is going to bring the next 2 points in handicraft, which is going to take most of the glaives all the way up until white sharpness. Again, I did say most, not all of them, but I wanted to keep this open to a lot of different different glaives. And on here, we're going to put another bolt jewel, which is going to max out our spark damage. Now, if you have a glaive with different element, you can swap that around. Or again, if you're playing Elementalist, you can put expert or attack jewels on there. And then I have another attack jewel. Like I said, the second attack jewel, I know that it's hard. But the other thing is, the reason I'm using +4 attack is because it's going to give me the 4 attack and the 5% affinity. So if you don't have an attack jewel, just put another expert jewel in there, and you will get 3% affinity instead of 5%. You'll be fine. Then we're going to wrap things up with the Earplugs Charm, maxing out our earplugs and ensuring that we don't get roared out of the sky. And the finalized build we're going to have there is level 5 earplugs, level 4 attack boost, level 4 handicraft, level 3 weakness exploit, level 2 thunder attack, level 1 airborne, and protective polish. Now, this is my personal build. You can change a lot of stuff on here, but I think the basis is pretty friggin' solid, and it allows you a wide diversity of playstyles while still giving you quite a bit of variety in the stuff that you can do, as well as utility in the form that you're not really going to be CC'd by constant monster roars, and it even allows you to fight multiple monsters at the same time without really taking that many chances, because you can go for the aerial playstyle and then use ground glaive when they're down. There are options, basically, is what I'm saying. However, I wanted to do a different build that focused on actually using the glaives that you get from the Kulve to Roth Siege, because you guys know the rarity 8 glaives that you get out of Kulve to Roth, those actually require awakening, and I wanted to do a version of that because I actually used one of these glaives on the Kulve to Roth raid, and it was super effective. The amount of damage that we were dealing on the final phase where she doesn't have the golden cloak anymore, it was completely insane. Now, that particular build I called the Awakened Angel with a Poor Fashion Sense, and I know it's a really dumb name. It's just the build doesn't look very good from a fashion standpoint, so you might want to apply like your overlay armor, because it is not going to look good, but it is going to fully awaken the element of your glaive. And on top of that, most likely you're going to be able to get white sharpness, because I believe that at least 2 of the rarity 8 glaives had white sharpness, so we're going to be taking advantage of that, and we're going to try to max out as much elemental damage as possible. Now, the glaive that I'm using is the Tear-Off Glaive Ice. Like I said, this is focused on those glaives, but if you got another glaive that requires awakening, then this might also do the trick for that. But again, the purpose of this particular build is to really focus down on how much elemental damage we're going to be doing with the glaive. On the Tear-Off Glaive Ice, we're going to be socketing a critical jewel 2. Now, this is optional. I only really put 1 critical jewel in this set, but I couldn't really think of anything else that I wanted to put in place of that critical jewel. Then we got the Rathalos Helm Beta, which is going to bring in 2 attack, and it is going to be the first piece that we're going to be using for the Rathalos 2-piece bonus of critical element, because like I said, we're maxing out as much elemental damage as we can, and therefore we got a Frost Jewel in there, which is going to increase our frost damage even more. Rathalos Male Beta, we put another Frost Jewel in there. This is going to bring in 2 weakness exploit, and it's going to give us the critical element. So not only it is increasing our affinity whenever we're hitting weak spots, it is also increasing our elemental damage when we do crit. Then we got the Kaiser Vambrace's Beta, which is going to max out our weakness exploit. And on there, we're going to put a Sharp Jewel. Again, I understand not everybody has a Sharp Jewel, but we don't really have a whole lot of choices here, because even though this particular glaive has white sharpness, it has a considerable amount of white sharpness, you still want to have, you still want to keep it there as long as possible. So it's like, if you don't have a Sharp Jewel in here, just put whatever you want. But Sharp Jewel will still help you stay on top of your sharpness for as long as possible. Then we got the Kulve to Roth's Malice. Now that is going to bring in your first point of awakening or free element / ammo up, which is going to be what we need to activate the element on these glaives. And then on there, we're going to be putting a Mighty Jewel too, because we're going to be going for maximum might, because even though you can do a lot of aerial, I also want this to be super viable if you want to do ground glaive, and we want the crit as often as possible to take advantage of the critical element of Rathalos set. Then we got another Frost Jewel in there to max out that elemental damage. Then we got the Kirin Leg Guards Beta, which is going to bring in the remaining 2 awakening points to really awaken fully the element in the glaive. And we're going to put 2 attack jewels in there to make sure that we get up to 4 attack. Now, again, if you don't have all of these attack jewels, your other option is you can either put in an additional Frost Jewel if you have one of those. I mean, because you can make one of those essentially, because you can still increase the damage a little bit, even though you're not going to take full advantage of that last Frost Jewel, or you can put in an Expert Jewel to increase your affinity. So it's going to be up to you guys. And finally, we put in a Mighty Charm 2, which is going to increase our chances to crit. Now, this particular set is better against monsters that don't scream as much, because you're going to be very vulnerable to getting roared out of the sky, which is something that is very frustrating for me. But at the same time, it's going to bring in full maximum might. It's going to give you a lot of affinity. You're going to be critting quite often. As a matter of fact, on our base affinity, we are looking at 35%, which is pretty damn good. You then stack the 50% on top of that from Weakness Exploit if you're hitting weak spots. So it's a pretty good build if you need to awaken the element on a glaive. I just wanted to give you guys a couple of options here for the Insect Glaive, since I hadn't done all that many of them. Hopefully you guys enjoyed these builds. Let me know what you guys think about it in the comment section below. Thank you guys very much for watching, and remember, if you enjoy these videos, hit the subscribe button, click the bell for notifications, and click all. Otherwise, YouTube won't send you all of my videos, just in case you guys are interested, and I'll see you guys in the next one.